What's up, Internet? This is the A4th Wolf, and welcome to another episode of Wolf Watches. Today, I'd be going over every frame that I could of the RWBY Volume 6 trailer. This was kind of a surprise. I didn't know that this was coming until the day before. So, I am just very excited to check out, see if I can discern what may happen and stuff like that. Let's just break down as bit by bit. I would normally do a reaction of the trailer, but since YouTube has been constantly on my butt about pretty much posting any kind of reaction video, this is why I'm kind of down to my breakdowns. I'll use images, mostly description, and if you don't want to hear any potential spoilers, I will be trying to guess what the trailer has been kind of hinting. So if you don't want to listen to any of those kinds of theories, I suggest you turn off, exit out of this window right now. So with that disclaimer out of the way, let's go ahead and dive right into the Volume 6 trailer. Now the trailer opens with like a monologue given to somebody by Salem. Its tone and words are kind of like, she's kind of describing how she is the dominant one and will not be questioned. She is the alpha. She is basically do what I say, period. I mean, like, there's no other way to describe it. While Salem is giving this monologue, Team RWBY, Crow, and Oscar are traveling through the snow with this older woman with these high-tech glasses. She actually kind of looks like Maz from Star Wars. And I'm not the only one who has made that connection. Based on the look of the goggles, I can't tell if she's wearing them or if they're like implanted in her eyes. And this might actually be kind of interesting because it could be a way to give her sight. We already know that Yang has a prosthetic arm, Ironwood has a prosthetic arm, so seeing like some other disability that has been overcome through science is kind of interesting to me. I like those kind of things. And I don't know if it's relevant, but I also watched the first season of Dragon Prince, which I may do a video on some other time. But in that, there is a person who is mute and communicates with sign language, which I think is one of the coolest things I've actually ever seen in an animation. I don't remember a lot of badass characters who have some kind of big disability, but more on that later. So more of the clip show goes on. We see some kind of transportation station, possibly a Mistral, that Team RWBY and Crow are waiting for something to arrive, possibly a train station based on the rest of the trailer. Then we move over to a scene in the White Fang's High Council chamber where we see lots of dead Faunus. And it's unsure what has happened, but it could be that the rift between Adam and the rest of the White Fang has exploded and he was, I say forced to defend himself, but he's a bastard, so he just killed them all. I'm just gonna say that. The next scene we get is actually pretty interesting. It's what looks like a group of humans. They're kind of far in the back, so I can't tell if any of them are Faunus, but odds are they're not. And they all seem to be bowing to this person that's in the foreground who is lowered through the air. And the coat makes it look like it's Dr. Watts. Now, whether or not this is his semblance or some use of technology, it seems like it is Watts. I'm just gonna say it's Watts. These people are bowing to him. I just don't know why, if it's a cult or they worship him because they worship Salem, or they're just scared out of their minds and they're just groveling. Then we see a scene of Emerald, who has her weapons out, and Tyrion is like right up in her face. So with that information, well, first of all, Tyrion's back. That's freaking awesome. I looked at that frame by frame, could not see a tail, so I don't know what it's replaced with, and it's bugging me. And with this reaction, I want to say that the whole speech that Salem gives is directed to her. Now, whether or not she threatens Salem or she is demanding something from her, Salem is basically saying, I hear you, but just so you know, if you go against me or if your interests differ from mine, I will kill you. And that's just fact. This is something I'm actually really excited for, because in my last video, I kind of described of like, what is Emerald's like plan? And maybe she wants more power. Maybe she blames Salem for the supposed death of Cinder. I'm still not convinced she's dead, okay? So this whole speech could be given to Emerald to kind of shut her down and shut her up, and basically install as much fear as possible. On a side note, Emerald is definitely one of the people that I think could have a change of heart just because of her reaction to the fall of Vale. But it's, I mean, she did love Cinder, so whether or not her attitude towards Cinder will trump over her feelings for other people just basically remains to be seen. Now we get to what I call the part 2 of the clip show. These are more rapid images throughout the trailer, and I'm gonna try and glean as much as I can from it. So the first part of the clip show, we just see that Team RWBY is on a train and Oscar is looking out a window, and these flying sort of lion grim are attacking the train. We then see RWBY using her semblance to zip through the transport terminal at high speed. Now, looking throughout the trailer and seeing how nobody else was reacting to RWBY's use of a semblance leads me to believe that this is more going to be for comic relief, or just like she's running late to the transport, so she's using her semblance to buzz through. Then we get more shots of the train battle, and throughout this we see both Team RWBY and Team Juniper. So we know that they're together at least part of the way, which is not shown in the first part when Team RWBY is just walking through the snow. Then we get a very different scene where there are these people in purple kind of attire, and maybe it's just me, but they sort of remind me of the style, or just the people sort of look like the people that were from Ren's village. So it would be kind of interesting if there were some, and actually it would make sense, that there would be some survivors from Ren's village, and just the way that they're situated, it makes them look like thugs. So I don't know if they're like part of a crime syndicate or something along those lines, but it also shows someone in the foreground in a cloak with a pile of money in front of them. Now, I have no idea who's under the cloak, but my first thought was Amber. If I'm remembering correctly, I think it was a brown cloak, and it could be just like a flashback of when Crow was kind of describing like how she tracked her down, or how the maidens remained hidden, and this was just a group of people who had maybe provided protection at some point or provided information. But again, that was just my first impression, and I just don't know who's under the cloak. There wasn't enough detail to see it, and I mean, I could be completely off on that. In any case, this cloak group of people, they give the aura of being against the law. So, but that was just my personal opinion. We then come back to Emerald, who is looking terrified while Salem is in the background. So this is probably, again, kind of during the speech where she's finally realizing, oh shit, she's right. Like, pretty much the only reason why she kept me around was because I'm useful, and I was, I was with Cinder. So now Cinder is not there at the moment. I don't think she's dead, but then she kind of realizes the gravity of her situation, that Salem could literally kill her instantly and have little to no regrets. The next scene we get is of Adam, and he just slices through his throne and just screams, and he has his mask back on. I mean, although the Adam short was canon, because all their trailers are canon, apparently he picked one back up. So, I mean, kind of, or maybe it was just like one of those things. It's like, we don't want to reveal what Adam looks like yet, so we just animated his mask back on. Now, the next tiny clip I think is one of the most important, and all it is Oscar kind of falling over and Team RWBY is reacting to it, and some of them are reacting with fear or just kind of surprise, but Yang looks pissed. And the reason why I say that this is important is because Yang literally said in the last volume, hey, you gotta tell us the truth. No more hiding stuff, no more half-truths, you gotta tell us stuff. And whether or not this is like a test of that bond or a test of basically the strength of their relationship. I mean, I don't think that Yang would leave, but this would be the kind of the first test of, hey, are you actually telling us everything, or are you leaving stuff out on purpose? And that whole discussion, to me, is very interesting because, for one thing, there's definitely a shitload of stuff that Oz hasn't told them. And how do you prioritize that? Obviously, there are things that don't come to mind. Just basically the volume of information that he's potentially hiding from them all these years. Maybe not necessarily hiding, but just hasn't had a chance to explain it, or thought it was a lower priority than what was being explained, which is actually a good argument. But if Yang Yang is Raven's daughter, so if you nitpick at that kind of thing too much, I'm sure that she would abandon Oz and hell, maybe even RWBY if it got too serious. So we get, again, a couple more scenes of the train fight. We see a red and white blur mixed together, kind of what Nora and RWBY did in Volume 4. So I think it's just another combination attack that Team RWBY has been working on, this time with RWBY and Weiss. Then finally it cuts to Oscar just screaming no, so something very, very bad is apparently going to happen. But I mean, I think we're kind of conditioned with that. Then we see kind of a cut shot of Salem reaching forward. And again, I think this is going to be part of kind of like Emerald's initial burst of energy against Salem. Whether it's demanding more power or just screaming at her because Cinder is missing and presumed dead. And then, of course, the final scene where Yang says to RWBY, "What's the plan?" And RWBY says, do not let anyone else die. And again, I like that scene in particular because it kind of calls back to the last volume where it's kind of like, you know, she had said to her teammates, you know, make it happen, don't get hurt, don't die, and then talking to Oscar, I want to protect people. She's kind of lost her innocence in a way, but she still believes that they can pull it out. I guess it's more like she's become more realistic and just says, you know, kind of do your best. It's kind of a weird thing for me to describe in a positive way, but I think it kind of shows her growth as a character a bit. Like she's got a little bit of ice in her veins now. Whether it's a negative thing or a determined thing, I'm not sure as of yet, but I really think that it's kind of like it's going to change her as a person now that we've seen it twice in 2 volumes. So with all of this in mind, what is going to happen? This is the part of the video where you want to close the window if you do not want to hear what I possibly think is going to happen. Now, there have been some worries online. It's like, oh, it's going to be another traveling episode or a traveling season like Volume 4 was, and I don't think it was. We had our traveling episode in Volume 4, so I think this trailer kind of encompasses up until about the 3rd of the next volume. They're in Mistral, they get on a train, they're with RWBY and Juniper, Oz and Crow, and they meet up with this older woman who possibly uses Atlas tech to be able to see. Now, obviously, she's gonna have some other important role, but maybe she's a scientist. Maybe they found somebody who could possibly help them figure out what the relic does or is. Now, whether or not she's from Mistral or Atlas, I'm not sure. It would be interesting if she was from Atlas, and maybe this is like the only way for her to get home. Because now, at this point, Ironwood has closed all the borders, so there is no way that she could get back in. So what I think this whole trailer is basically going to tell us in the next few episodes is that they get on a train, they're with the entire group, it gets attacked by Grimm, whether through Salem's actions or just random chance. The train crashes and they are separated from Juniper, and basically all of Ruby, Oz, and Crow and the old woman are separated from Team Juniper. Now, whether or not the story's gonna focus on Juniper after that, I'm not sure. Maybe they plan to meet up somewhere, they say, okay, we may have been split up, but maybe we can meet them in Atlas. So during all this, they're gonna learn a couple of revelations. Emerald is going to start questioning Salem. Salem is going to give her whole thing, and Tyrion is going to go back in the fray. So I hope that means that Tyrion's going to start hunting down Ruby and the rest. So with all of that, I forgot Adam. In terms of Adam, I just don't know. He's by the looks of things, the White Fang in Mistral is screwed. They're just too divided. They've seen through Adam's lies, don't like the fact that he ran away or failed, and he has taken the blunt of all of that criticism, not to mention perhaps some word of what happened in Menagerie as well. But a friend of mine brought up something very interesting after I put out my top 10 villains theories list, and he thinks that it may be possible for Adam to regain at least some control of the White Fang from those in Atlas. Think about it, Atlas has been the most separated from the rest of the world, and the Faunus there are probably the most oppressed. They're all working in the dust mines. Schnee is just, a heartless bastard, and with the closed borders, no more news is coming in and out. So it is possible that Adam goes to Atlas, if anything, just to regain some measure of control and try to hurt whatever enemies he has left, which is pretty much everyone at this point. Now that I think about it, his self-destructive route is going to be a problem, because it's going to be one of those things that, if he can't get his way, he's probably going to take down everyone he possibly can. I mean, remember, Blake's word for Adam was spite. So what's more spiteful than just taking down everything? He has now become a true anarchist. Now that I say that, we probably could have said that before, but at least, in the White Fang there was some sort of order before he took control. So, it was still, it wasn't a government, but it was still a system that had rules. And now that he's now just the leader of a splinter group, he's taking down everything from human governments to the rest of the White Fang, who never backed him up. So to me, that's a very interesting topic, and I'm still wondering what's his overall plan, what's he want to do. And I actually do kind of like the whole idea of him just burning everything to the ground, whether or not he's successful. The only thing I was a little disappointed with was just the lack of any scenes with villains. There's just the whole Emerald and Salem bit, and then Tyrion makes a small appearance, and Adam makes a small appearance, but possibly Dr. Watts makes an appearance. But we never see them interact with our heroes. And I wish I could have seen a little bit of that, but at the same time I don't, so. So I'm hard to please. So that's what I think is gonna happen for at least a third maybe of the episodes. I really hope that they do get to Atlas and we get to see just more of what's going on. I just don't think that Biles and Carrie would write down an entire traveling arc again. When the first one, it wasn't bad by any means, but it did get a lot of criticism from people who wanted more stuff to happen. I personally like the volume, but again, I kind of want the story to keep going. I'm really excited to see what Atlas is like and how Ironwood is going to take everybody. He's definitely going to be my main star for Volume 6, because I want to see if he becomes a villain. So I think that breaks down everything that I can remember from the trailer. So I hope you guys enjoyed. What do you guys think? Do you think I'm right? Do you Did you enjoy this breakdown? Let me know. Please share, comment, subscribe. And until then, this is the 84th Wolf, and I'll see you guys next time.